Welcome back to Q&A Anime. You're here with Kadir and Akil, and today we're discussing One Piece Chapter 1043.
Make sure to like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and let's get into it.
One hell of a chapter.
To say the least. I think I read it first, and then I was like, Akil, you gotta read it. You gotta read it right now, my boy.
Oh man, I never could. Listen, some of our predictions were obviously right. See, we'll get into that, but I could have never predicted what they dropped at the end of the chapter.
The ending was amazing, and I, as a longtime One Piece fan, it is about time. I'm sure you felt the same way. So
yeah, absolutely. So let's just get into it. So at the start of the chapter, we have Kaido officially defeating Luffy.
Fully KO'd from Kaido's last attack. All the air from Gearforth leaves, and then Momo, poor Momo.
Yeah, Momo even notices Luffy's voice disappears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Kaido is declared the official winner of the fight. And he doesn't even look like he's happy.
Yeah, how could he be? I mean, the CP0 agent took everything from him. Like, once again, you saw him get the trauma. He got the Odin flashbacks, bro. The PTSD hit him.
You saw the look in his face? That is not the face of a man who's satisfied with his victory.
Bro, that is the face of a man who's about to go on the murderous rampage of the century.
Yes, you could see the PTSD return.
Absolutely destroyed the CP0 agent. Like, did you see the cloud after his attack? The one swing.
The CP0 agent didn't even bother moving.
Yeah, he just I'm wondering whether he just accepted it. It looked like he tipped his hat, and I noticed the other CP0 agent also kind of tipped his hat after the attack went off. So I'm wondering if maybe he just accepted the fact he had to sacrifice himself for the sake of the mission.
Yeah, I think it was a nod to his sacrifice, the other CP0 agent. Because there was no way that he was going to survive a full Thunder Bagua from an angered Kaido.
Honestly, I was hoping we'd at least get to see him fight back a little, just because I really wanted to see him try to fight and Kaido really just start snapping on a whole different level.
No, I think that seeing Kaido's wrath was scary enough for me, at least. And then the next scene, we have Kawamatsu telling everyone to find a way out.
Yeah, he talks about how there's no water around, so they can't even do anything about the fire. And he even mentions how there's no honor in burning alive.
Yeah, I'm happy that he mentions that because, some of these samurai are out here trying to die noble deaths, but what good is a noble death if you're fried to a dead husk on the ground?
I was gonna say, and they're very big on the honor. Even then, I remember that back when we had the flashback, a couple chapters with to Usopp, when he was telling them he doesn't know why they're so obsessed with dying. He thinks it's more honorable to try to live. And so even though the samurai, they do have a kind of conception of it's better to die with honor at the very least.
Yeah, I'm hoping that they regain their honor.
You can see that. For them to just keep running into these flames, they're not even dying for any purpose. They're not dying trying to fight for the cause. They're just giving their lives away. And so he's like, there's no honor in us staying here and burning to death if we're not even fighting to help free Wano.
Yeah. So everyone on the bottom floor, they were kind of shocked at the loud bang they heard. And, we know the bang was Kaido smacking that CP0 agent. And then you see Kaido swoop down from the ceiling.
Yeah, and he demands Momo surrenders.
Yes.
He said, bring out Momonosuke, I demand a surrender.
Yeah, Kaido's not playing around anymore. He's done with playing games. He's about to subject Wano to a terror they haven't seen before.
Yeah, he announces Luffy's death proudly to everyone.
Yes.
And even Law notices Luffy's voice disappear, so...
Yeah, so it makes me wonder if Law also has the voice of all things. Because
I think he does. I think the trait that has people have the voice of all things is just having the D in your name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a connection there with maybe being able to hear divine voices. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's what the D could stand for. Because they also go against God.
Yeah, I was going to say, I remember they said that the D is also considered enemies of God, but there's so many theories out there about what exactly the D means, even in terms of what we've gotten in the past in One Piece, so... Yeah.
So Chopper, feel so bad for Chopper.
He was crying on a whole different level, I'm surprised. I expected everyone on the crew to just not even for a split second want to believe it, but it was just so sad to see Chopper just falling like that.
Well, I mean, if you see Kaido come back down and Luffy said he's going to take out Kaido, then what other conclusion is there?
Listen, Nami had another conclusion. She thinks that Kaido's a liar. Bold as hell, because she even calls it him to his face. Like, yes. She says, we can't let that snake get away with lying, and then screams out that he's a liar to his face.
Yes. I think Kaido's a lot of things, but I don't think he's a liar. And you could tell he got pretty pissed off at that.
Yeah, absolutely. He was about to blast breath her into oblivion until Marco stepped in.
Almost hit her with that hyper beam. Zero cooldown. But I was so surprised at Marco's ability to just tank that blast breath. He only used one arm too.
I was gonna say, I think between the fact that Marco does have incredible Haki control, as well as his fruit being the Phoenix-like fire, really does help him in terms of his combat ability.
Yeah, he's definitely someone that I've underestimated before in terms of combat prowess, but way earlier, when we see him taking on King and Queen at the same time, I was like, man, Marco is that guy.
Yeah, exactly, because we saw just how much both Zoro and Sanji had to put out to beat those people, and he was taking them both on at the same time. Without
breaking a sweat. I want to see what he's fully capable of. So he starts ranting about the consequences of opposing him. Won't be as soft as Orochi, so that's even scarier.
Because Orochi was far from soft.
Right? Orochi had his own people dying, and Kaido has literally no connection to Wano, so he's about to tear them apart.
Yeah, he even says they're just a giant weapons factory to him. He's like, I don't care if they're women or children, everyone's my slave, and you guys are gonna work till you drop dead.
Yes, this is what it means to lose in war, are his final words.
Yeah.
So, Kid and Law get ready to fight with what little they have left.
Yeah, and I see that the Beast Pirates are super motivating seeing Kaido come back down. They got their second win. They're even trying to they're like, yeah, let's get them. They're weak from fighting Big Mom. We can just take their heads.
Yeah, and I really like Kid's quote. You want to say it?
Oh, yeah. Surrendering or letting him kill us are both out of the question, so we have to fight.
I think that speaks to Kid's resolve, and I think he's very similar to Luffy in that aspect, where he'd rather go down dying than, kneel down and live under someone else's rule. And I think that's what separates someone who could become a pirate king from someone like Basil Hawkins and Apu, who just kind of knuckle under.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
And then Yamato talks some sense into Momo, and we actually get to hear why the chapter is called We All Die Together.
Yeah, because Momo's doubting that he can even do anything against Kaido. I mean, especially as someone who's been looking up to Luffy. Since he met Luffy, all he's ever seen is Luffy, pushing forward to help him, to save people. And so, to him, Luffy and Zoro and other members of the Straw Hats are, his envisionment of what strength is. And so for him to find out that, those people, someone like Luffy especially, lost, and then that he's expected to fight that same person, he's terrified.
Yeah, especially since he hasn't really had any fighting experience. Even on Punk Hazard, he was just being babied by the whole crew. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And he even thinks that fighting until the last breath wouldn't be worth it because it'd only be throwing away more lives, and he just wants to yield to Kaido instead.
But then I think that's where he needs to learn to become a samurai, because he's trying to save lives, whereas the people whose lives he's saving, they would rather die honorably. And I think that him surrendering if they heard that Momonosuke wanted to surrender, I don't think that they'd want to have him as the shogun, because that's not the kind of leadership that they'd want.
Yeah, absolutely. I also think it's interesting because Yamato and Momo are kind of almost two sides of the same coin in a sense, and both of them were born young into the Wano that was being taken over by Kaido and Orochi.
Yeah.
Except Momo got sent forward in time, so he didn't have to live through everything that Yamato lived through and saw and experienced. So it's different for him. He's heard of it and he knows of what happened, but knowing and experiencing are two wildly different things. And so for Yamato, who had lived through it, she had to start snapping on him, because she was no, he's who cares if they'll live? They'll be slaves till the day they die of exhaustion, and that surrendering won't save anyone.
Yeah, surrendering under Kaido would just lead to unnecessary deaths.
Yeah, even worse deaths, because even
Yeah.
then they wouldn't be dying to try to protect themselves. They would just be working themselves to the point like that. You know how painful that is, especially how we saw how people were suffering in the prison in Wano when Luffy was there. Yeah, to have everyone in Wano having to experience that. I mean, it was already bad enough that the villagers were starving and what he did to them with the smiles. But the fact that like if Momo were to surrender, it would get infinitely worse.
And they would hate Momo forever too.
Yeah. And so Yamato continues, she's like, everything Wano has endured for the past 20 years was for the sake of this battle, like this one battle. Like, we can't surrender. It even says, even if surrender is our only option, I'd rather we die together.
And that is such a poetic thing to say, because I think that it really highlights the sacrifices everyone's making on the island, right? Zoro pretty much is on the brink of death. You have
on the brink of death.
Yes, so many characters on the brink of death.
As Brooke would say, but he's already dead. Yo ho ho.
Yes. I want to know where the other scabbards are right now. So, I mean, yeah, Izo's on the brink of death. Raizo, he was talking about preparations. So, I'm wondering if we're going to get back to that in the next chapter.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm wondering if maybe we'll get like a big group last stand against Kaido while he's pretty much just trying to trample on what's left of the troops, you know, like Kid and Law don't have much left in them, but they're gonna fight. I'm sure Chopper would be willing to fight. Maybe he'll be able to go Monster Point again.
Yeah, I could see one last push by the remainders of the crew, and then they hold him off enough for Luffy to hopefully regain some of his haki. Because, you know, after Kid 4th, he still has a 10-minute cooldown. But
I was going to say, yeah.
Given what we know is happening to Luffy, that may or may not be the case. So
yeah, the biggest reveal at the end of the chapter. Oh my goodness.
So Zunisha hears something he hasn't heard in 800 years. The drums of liberation. He's there without a doubt. Joy Boy has returned. So, oh my gosh, this was amazing.
In that last panel, we kind of see that Luffy's body, like we see the grin break out on Luffy's body.
Yes.
As he says, Joy Boy has returned, and we kind of see that like his body is almost looks like it's like melting almost.
Yeah, it's turning into something, but I don't know what.
Yeah. That, and I'm not sure either. I'm not sure whether or not it looks as if almost maybe like Joy Boy's taking over Luffy's body.
Well, I hope that it still is Luffy at the end of whatever's happening, because that's who we've grown to.
I think so. I feel like if anything, like maybe it's tied to his awakening, but I feel like whatever it is, Joy Boy taking over his body is not going to be permanent. It's going to be a temporary thing, and I think we will get Luffy back at some point.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure how exactly Joy Boy's coming back. That's the big thing, because first, we know that Luffy's fruit hasn't been awakened in over 800 years.
Yeah.
When Joy Boy was around. And so the fact that it's Luffy who has this fruit, is that what the key thing is? That it's allowing Joy Boy to come back? Maybe like whatever the true nature of the fruit is somehow ties into him being able to take over the person's body as some kind of awakening.
So that would give the fruit a possibility of maybe being a Zoan fruit, you think? Like a mystical Zoan?
Maybe.
Because he's turning into something else?
Yeah.
And you know how Marco had specific, like, control over the different parts of his body to turn into a phoenix? Maybe that's what Luffy had with control of whatever Zoan type fruit Luffy might have.
Oh, hang on. I remember Joy Boy was tied, he was linked to like the sun god. I don't remember what the sun god's name was, but do you remember like that? Like there was some, I was gonna say there was like a connection of something we knew between Joy Boy and like the sun god. I wish I could remember his name, but I'm wondering if maybe,
yes, with the fishermen pirates.
Yes. And so I'm wondering if maybe like the zone, it is a mythical zone, and maybe it's the mythical zone of like that sun god or something.
Because remember, Who's Who was mocking Jinbei over the legend of the sun god. Mm-hmm. And he was saying you joined that man's crew, being Luffy. And they were discussing the fruit. So I think it all like ties together into this maybe being like some kind of sun god fruit.
Yeah, and especially even then on top of that, the old man Hyogoro, when he was in prison, he saw Luffy's form and he talked about how he looked like a deity.
Yes, we covered that. We added that in our last video.
Yeah, and so a lot of these signs are just kind of stacking on top of each other, and I really do think that maybe like, and it's crazy because I like just now because of what you said kind of put these pieces together, but I think that like this actually might be like a really valid theory as to what's going on.
So maybe Gear 5th Sun God or
Sun God, that would be something incredible.
That would be such a cool transformation for Luffy. I'd want to see what kind of power he had access to. We're 100% just like spouting theories off the top of our head, by the way. We're not 100% sure like what's going on, what this
Nobody but Oda knows.
Nobody but Oda knows for right now. Maybe we might get some early spoilers because the spoilers for this chapter came super early. They came on Monday and we didn't get the chapter till Friday. I had to work through like so much temptation not to just read all the spoiler updates. Break next week, so unfortunately we're gonna have to wait 2 weeks before we even get any more One Piece. But with that kind of level of hype that's being dropped at the end, I honestly can't even blame Oda. You know, he's been working hard, so take the breaks. You know. Yes, I've told all my anime only friends to avoid all One Piece forums for the next like week and a half. It might have to be even longer depending on what gets revealed in the next chapter. So I'm thinking that the next chapter we'd see the conflict between Kaido and everybody, and then they'd be on like the brink of defeat. And then at the end of that chapter, we would see Luffy like get up, and we'd see like one frame or like a partial frame of like Luffy's like new form. And then it would be another week after that before we actually see like what Luffy looks like. So I have like my fingers crossed that Oda won't cliffhang us again and will actually like give us what we've been waiting for. But I feel like knowing what I know about Oda, I feel like if anything, like he might not even cliffhang us in the sense that next chapter we might not even get any more information about what's going on with Luffy. 100% true. Oda has he's very picky with like what he decides to reveal in certain chapters.
I was gonna say I either have two theories. Either A, like we're gonna see. I feel like we definitely have to see the conflict between Kaido and people. I think we might maybe get a little more inclination of what's happening with Zoro, because I feel like it's been a while since we've seen what's happened with him. We saw Frankie grab him, and like that's about it from what we've seen. Maybe something with like the different Straw Hats. Maybe if they heard what Kaido said as well.
Yeah.
And maybe something with Zunisha. Like maybe we'll get a mini Zunisha flashback as he tells Momo a little bit more about Joy Boy. Because he dropped that spoiler to Momo, so Momo might ask questions, and maybe we'll get a little more information about some stuff that happened in the Void Century.
Yeah, I wonder if this means that I wonder if this means that Zunisha might join the crew, because remember how previously it said that Zunisha and Joy Boy, the previous Joy Boy, were partners.
Mm-hmm.
So if Luffy reincarnates as Joy Boy, does that mean that Zunisha would be paired with Luffy?
I think that as long as Joy Boy is in control, Zunisha would like listen to Joy Boy, but I think once it goes back to Luffy, it wouldn't work, because remember when Luffy was first on Zunisha and they were going to Zou, he could hear the voice, but he couldn't communicate with it like Momo can.
Yeah.
And so I think that when Joy Boy's in control, he can probably freely converse with Zunisha and talk to it and tell it things. But once Luffy comes back, I feel as though since there's no way for him to tell Zunisha anything, Zunisha wouldn't be able to follow or do anything.
Maybe. Like I said, we'll have to see.
Yeah, we will have to see. But an incredible chapter, nonetheless.
To say the least. So I wanted to bring up another thing. Do we think that it's going to be a Gear 5th reveal? Because there was this thing I saw where Gear 2nd was revealed in like chapter, it was like 379 or something like that, and then Gear 4th was revealed in chapter like 973 or 739, something like that. The chapter numbers were like mixed up in a different way that kind of like connected with one another, and I'm wondering if we're going to be running into that same thing where maybe we have a significant reveal based on like the numbers of the chapter that's going to be released next. So in other words, will chapter 1044 or 1045 be something significant that we've seen in the past, and it could potentially give us a hint as to what we could expect to see in Luffy.
I know I think that's interesting. I didn't even think about that, but you're right, because Oda does enjoy doing a lot of like, I can't even call it wordplay, because it's kind of with numbers as well, in the sense that like because how the kanji and stuff work in Japanese, you can do stuff like that. Like go mu, technically like go is 5 and I think mu is 6. And so like go, like the go mu is like, it would be as wordplay 56, 56. You know? And so, and sometimes in terms of things like that, like he'll like, I remember he introduced like certain characters in the same number chapter that like their fruits like number would have been.
Oh yeah, you're right.
And so I do think that it's possible that maybe he could be trying to do something like that in upcoming chapters, especially with what's going on.
I could see that. Well, I'd want to see that because it would just be so Oda. So with that, I think that kind of ends our analysis and discussion of chapter 1043. Make sure to leave on any predictions you guys have, anything you notice from the chapter that we might be missing.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially because now there is just so much that could possibly be going on. So any extra information, we'd love to hear.
Yes. And with that, I think that wraps it up. So Q&A out.
Q&A out.